Hi and welcome back to the course. In this video, we're quickly going to go over how you might call the API from within JavaScript. In the resources section for this lecture, you've got a HTML file that you can download. That should be somewhere at the top left of your video player. All I want you to do is download that HTML file, create a templates folder, and put the HTML file in it. It's very important that your folder is called templates because that's what Flask is going to look for. The HTML file looks like this, and all it really does is call the API endpoints. So we've got a HTML code which looks like these opening and closing tags. This is an opening tag, and this is a closing tag with the / in front. It's got a head tag and a body tag. The body is what we show our users, and the head has some scripts and things that we want to run but we don't want to show our users. In the head, we've got a JavaScript script, and there is a function. This function calls a URL using a GET request, and then when it's done, it calls something else that we define. This is not a JavaScript course, so apologies for the lack of detail in this, but I just wanted to show you that you can call your API from JavaScript and that it's really useful for web APIs, for web applications and things like that. And also, now that we're here, I'll also show you how you can render HTML code from within your Flask application. That's not something that you would want to do from a REST API, but it's something that you do want to do if you want to create a Flask web application as opposed to a web API. The first thing we have to do is to go to Flask and import render template, as well as the other things. And then we're going to create another endpoint, such as the home, that is going to return a render template of index.html. Flask automatically looks into the templates folder, so this index.html is going to be this file here. Okay, so when we render the template, all we're going to see is the words hello world, because they are inside this div, and a div is just an HTML element that contains other elements. In this case, it contains some text. Although this JavaScript function is defined, it's never going to run because we're not actually running it. The same way as in Python, defining a function doesn't run it, in JavaScript, defining a function doesn't run it either. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this app, and we're going to go to the root of the app, and we're going to see the words hello world come out. So let's go over to our terminal and do Python 3.5 app.py. Remember, you have to be in the correct folder to do this. And then your app will start running, so copy that, go over to Google Chrome, paste it in here, and what we get is hello world. Remember, we're accessing the root endpoint, but we can still access the store endpoint if we want, and that still returns our JSON code. What we're returning here is the JavaScript and HTML code. However, remember, we've not called the JavaScript function, which creates the GET request, so that's something that we should do. So let's do that now. Below the function, say HTTP get async, and then the URL that we want to call, and finally a callback function, so a function that is going to get executed once the request is successful. This is very similar to passing functions to functions in Python. So what we're going to do here is this. The function callback also receives the response content. So that will be some JSON string. And what we're going to do in this function is we're just going to throw an alert with the response. Okay, let's go over to the terminal, stop this using Control-C and restart it, and then go over to Chrome and refresh the page. What do you think is going to happen? We get our alert, and this alert contains the JSON content, essentially the string, with this data here. There are many other things we could do from JavaScript at this point. We could, for example, go more in depth and create an element for each store, maybe have a list of the items that it contains. We could do more interactive things like be able to click on a store to retrieve the items. and so on. There's loads of things that we could do. But the key point here is that I wanted to show you how JavaScript and the API work together. JavaScript always has to call your API using some code like this. In other cases, you can use, for example, AngularJS, or you can use jQuery. There's a bunch of JavaScript libraries that can do this for you. But JavaScript is always running on the browser, and it has to call your API to retrieve data from it so that it can then show it on the website. So Python doesn't really know about the website in the same way that JavaScript doesn't know about the Python code, but they talk to each other via our API by passing JSON code. Again, this is not a JavaScript course, so for more information, I'd advise you go to a JavaScript web application development course. I have one of those, but there are also many others in Udemy and elsewhere in the internet that talk about this stuff. This was a simple tutorial on how the JavaScript and Python code interact, but there are many other things that you can do with JavaScript, so don't feel limited to displaying alerts. There's many, many more things you can do. And indeed, the point of JavaScript is to make websites more dynamic. So that's it for this video. And we've not tested the API really, we've only shown you how it works. And in the next video, we're going to actually test the API properly and professionally using an API testing tool. So I'll see you there.